With the Mamushi invasion arc nearing its end, I think it's time to discuss something that was brought to my attention just listening to the discourse that was going around in the Boruto community. What I noticed is that a lot of people want to know more about the Otsutsuki, one of the most prominent figures in the Boruto series, and is behind the special power inherited by Boruto and Kawaki. Throughout the series, dating back to the beginning of the series overall, there's been a lot of Otsutsuki themed narratives flowing around in the story, narratives that has been covered completely and some not so much. And on top of that, there's gonna be a ton of future events that's gonna occur because of the Otsutsuki. And obviously Ikimoto knows this. He knows he has quite a lot to go over before he even thinks about the end of Tubu Vortex. That's why I never really understood the notion that Boruto could end soon or within 5 volumes. Because you combine what the main goal is now and the information they have to cover to bring the story together on top of some hypothetical scenarios. Maybe an example of that would be Kawaki reviving Akabe and then she turned into some crazy Otsutsuki. And I will talk more about that briefly, but like I said, if you add that as well, then that's even more runtime for the Boruto series. So there is a lot of unanswered questions that need to be addressed, sure. But one of the biggest concerns most of the readers have from a chapter to chapter basis is about the Otsutsuki. Everything surrounding them, which includes the history of their clan, more specifically surrounding the legacy of Shibai Otsutsuki. And then you have to reveal Boruto's connection to the Otsutsuki as well. And that explanation could go deep enough so we understand why he has the potential to even unlock such a mythical dojutsu like the JOUGAN. So how are they gonna address all these concerns about the history of the Otsutsuki? The answer is right there. A dedicated arc for us to understand the Otsutsuki better. Between the ending of Naruto, where the Otsutsuki were mainly introduced into the story as big time characters, and now in Tubu Vortex, we gotten a ton of new lore and theories about them as a clan. So that gives Ikimoto more content to take advantage of. And obviously I'm saying this because if Boruto does end up awakening the JOUGAN anytime soon, this arc is the bridge to introduce that into the series. Think back to every unanswered theory that was introduced in the story. Every one of those narratives can be used for content later on. With the introduction of Momoshiki, he briefly told Boruto that those blue eyes shall eventually take everything from him. Referring to omnipotence, of course, and the fact that Boruto's life was stripped away from him in a matter of seconds. Pretty straightforward. Everything from that conversation seems to have already been explored or explained already. But if we take a look at content from the anime, they further elaborate on this exact scene, with Momoshiki telling Boruto that he sees he strongly inherited the power of the Otsutsuki. By Momoshiki saying this, it implies that even before Momoshiki given Boruto the Karma Seal, he already had connections to the Otsutsuki. And that's apparent because right here on the screen, you see when this conversation was happening, Boruto's JOUGAN was already activated. So this actually foreshadows that Boruto has some deeper connection to the Otsutsuki since he was born. A deeper connection than just being the vessel of Momoshiki. So that's mainly why I think Boruto specifically deserves an arc like this. An arc where he learns his connections to the gods of this world and the secret power that resides in him. And this secret power could be anywhere between a hidden connection to Shibai and him awakening the JOUGAN. An old theory that surfaced around the time when Shibai was introduced back in chapter 75 was that Boruto was the true vessel of Shibai Otsutsuki. And this theory mainly stemmed from Shibai basically being able to tamper with reality, as Momoshiki insinuated that there could have been multiple times where something like omnipotence occurred in the world, which rewrote reality as we know it. And if you take a look at Boroshiki, his appearance was similar to Momoshiki in some ways, but at the same time it was also pretty reminiscent of Shibai, maybe a little more than Momoshiki. The theories from that is still relevant to this day. A being that transcends this dimensional plane and who pretty much has the power to do anything he pleases to the world is very important to the series. It's very likely that most theories around the Otsutsuki date right back to Shibai. He's not someone who is well explored right now, and that's because nobody really knows about him. No regular person at least. Who knows if members of the Otsutsuki like Momoshiki even has knowledge on him. Like, what was Shibai aiming for? Why did he seek so much power? Enough power to be a god of this magnitude. Was Shibai hated by his clan? I know it sounds a bit harsh to assume he was hated, but there are Otsutsuki that were hated by the clan because their goals and ideals did not align. Take Tonari for example. They didn't necessarily love him all that much. They slandered him because he chose to protect Earth instead of destroying it, and he frowned upon his clan because of the things they were doing. While I don't think it happens very often, it's possible that Shibai was a peace-loving being who was criticized because of his beliefs. This would eventually cause Shibai to seek power to stop the Otsutsuki. If he has the almighty power to rewrite reality, then it's not a stretch to say he transcends the concept of time and space. So it's very likely Shibai is able to manipulate the past. Manipulate the past to find a way to stop a certain future from happening. Boruto could be the living proof of this phenomenon. Like I said earlier, Boruto's Otsutsuki genetics could tie back to Shibai, which is why he showed signs of awakening the JOUGAN so early on in the series. And as for the manga, this potential Otsutsuki arc could introduce that concept to the story permanently, revealing Boruto to have inherited the will of Shibai Otsutsuki. And through this secret connection, he would obtain a lost power of the Otsutsuki, originally belonged to Shibai himself. So this would obviously pin Boruto to be the chosen one, the star of hope to be more accurate, the one Shibai chose to stop this impending doom that he rewrote reality an unspecified amount of time to stop. Signs that this is the case has already started to happen too. Shibai is already making his mark in the series, even before he was introduced. Which brings me to a separate theory tied around the Otsutsuki mural that was shown to us. Again, very early on in the series, the broken mural represents the third pair of Otsutsuki assigned to harvest planets with one superior and one subordinate, or assigned as a sacrifice. Remember, that's the whole reason Otsutsuki travel in pairs, one superior and one meant to act as a sacrifice, more times than not to cultivate the divine tree. So of course we know Kaguya was supposed to be Ishiki's sacrifice until she backstabbed him, and the same with Momoshiki and Kinshiki and so on. The third pair is still unknown to this day, but since it's so damaged, this led fans to speculate this could be related to Shibai's legacy. And depending which one is Shibai, either the one on top or on the bottom, that could insinuate there's a being that came with Shibai to Earth, who's actually superior to Shibai. Or perhaps because Shibai was the one who was going around and eating planets, he was the one on top. But that just brings up more Otsutsuki lore to be covered. Like, who did he come to Earth with? And where are they now? Have they already been sacrificed? Or is this destroyed mural a representation of something more? Perhaps a broken or severed relationship between Shibai and the Otsutsuki. Could it be that he did it? Trying to erase his tracks from the world? This goes into my theory earlier about Shibai not having the best relationship to his clan, causing someone or himself to destroy this mural. As it appears, it doesn't seem destroyed due to natural causes. By the way this looks, I'd say it was done intentionally, but by whom and why? You see, there is a lot of traces that just one Otsutsuki left before he eventually ascended, so it causes room for additional conversation. The story even shown us that Tonari was a point of emphasis for a potential bridge or link between Boruto and the Otsutsuki, and he has theories tied to him being the one that gave Boruto the JOUGAN in the first place. So Tonari definitely has a hand in this, believe it or not, and he also doesn't like or isn't liked by the Otsutsuki. So however we think, either tied to Tonari or Shibai, Boruto was somehow given the JOUGAN to combat a future calamity, most likely caused by the Otsutsuki, not even the Shinju. Amado is also a character that has seen a lot of judgment in the past. His knowledge on the Otsutsuki was what made him one of the most mysterious characters in the history of the franchise. Look at how mysterious Shibai was, and now try to comprehend how the likes of Amado got his hands on his remains. Enough DNA to make his own cyborgs, and implant that DNA into each and every one of them. So that right there is something that will birth a lot of new theories. most of which explains why Amado could be someone completely different than what we thought he was. I heard talks about him being a secret Otsutsuki, or maybe the Otsutsuki that came with Shibai to Earth. This Amado person could simply be his vessel, and the theories are justified too, because there's no way a regular person like him could have come into possession of Shibai's remains, without explaining how he got them, by the way. He also knows the ins and outs on how the Karma Seal works, and I guess you could chalk that up to him being so close to Ishiki all this time. Maybe he picked up some knowledge, or maybe Ishiki told Amado some of this information. But even without that knowledge, he still knows way too much for a regular scientist. So when talking about his daughter Akabe, there may be something about her that he's not telling us, or something that he's not telling us about the karma that could affect her revival. So these theories line up with each other. The Otsutsuki mural, Shibai's remains, Amado's advanced knowledge of the Otsutsuki, even Akabe's revival. It all could be tied together somehow. Because other than Boruto being a reincarnation of Shibai in some aspect, or simply just carry the will of Shibai, it can also be true that this whole thing with Amado having a daughter that he wants to revive is simply a ruse to get Kawaki to revive Shibai in a Delta body. He even says that he added Akabe's data to Kawaki's reconstructed karma. Is it really Akabe's data inside Kawaki's karma? Because if he wanted to, he could have used Shibai's data. And we already established he's in possession of his DNA. You see, before any of these theories become a reality, Ikimoto has to set it up properly. So he's gonna give us an arc where we get more information on the Otsutsuki. With more information, we'll understand these narratives better. Like I said, it's just a gateway to more Otsutsuki lore. And I think Boruto is going to benefit the most in this arc because of his deep connection to the Otsutsuki. A connection that somehow goes even deeper than the Karma Seal. Imagine this being one tiny section of the Boruto iceberg, because this video didn't even include the timelines, the different futures that weren't shown to us via prescience. I mean, they were explained to us, but it wasn't in depth, so we can really understand how a future came to be, or didn't come to be. Like earlier on, Kashin Koji explained to us that there was a future where Boruto and Sarada were unalived by Kawaki, right? How likely was that future to happen? What happened to shift the future so that it didn't happen? Like there had to be something, anything that caused that not to happen. Did Mitsuki and the rest arrive earlier than expected? And if so, what happened for that to occur? And the one everyone is concerned with right now is Himawari. She was supposed to be unalived by Mamushi. Is that future still gonna happen? Or with the help of Inojin and the rest, did they avoid it? So there's many concepts that involve time that was not covered yet, including the original timeline when Boruto was destroyed by Jura. What happened in that timeline? Was Koji even present? Was Boruto weaker than he is now? It's all content that can benefit from an entire arc. An arc that is mainly about exploring the deeper themes of Tubular Vortex, the theme of time, and the Otsutsuki. They can even further discuss the events that took place throughout the time skip, like Boruto and Sasuke's fight against Code, Boruto's training with Sasuke, and later on Kashin Koji. So the truth of the matter is, this series has much to cover, enough to keep it running at least 5 more years at the bare minimum. So right now in the story, I think that would be a key arc to implement, especially after the fight with Mamushi. Whenever they plan to strengthen Boruto even more, this is something that he will have to go through, or something that has to happen so he can know the truth behind his Otsutsuki heritage. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is something the story could benefit from? Is there any personal theories you want to see explored through this new Otsutsuki focused arc? Let me know down below in the comment section, and if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and show some love by leaving a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on them post notifications so you know whenever I upload or go live for chapter spoilers. And until next time, I'll see you boys and girls later, and I'm out. Peace.